The IRS is the latest government entity to cooperate with the Department of Homeland Security over the crackdown on undocumented immigrants. Both have reached a data sharing agreement where ICE would submit names and addresses of immigrants living in the United States without legal status who have final removal orders, which would be used to check against IRS taxpayer records. Joining us now is Michael Kirkpatrick, attorney at Public Citizen Litigation Group. Michael, good to see you. Thanks for joining us. Your team today presented arguments against the government's latest move. What is your reaction to the hearing today, especially given the judge questioned your legal basis to halt the data sharing?
Well, we're encouraged by today's hearing. We had about 2.5 hours of argument, and the judge is allowing us to submit further submissions by next Wednesday, and the government can respond by the following Monday. So this is far from over. We've moved for a preliminary injunction because we're in a situation that once this information is shared, it would be almost impossible to ever get it back. And so we're in a situation where we really need the court to act to rule on the legality of this new deal between the IRS and ICE before any information is shared. And one thing we did learn today was we got confirmation that no information has been shared yet. And in fact, there are still a couple of steps that the agencies need to go through to finalize their agreement and sort of the implementing part of that before any data transfer could take place. So that's good news for our clients, but there's still a lot of risk that this data could end up being shared, and we think that's contrary to law. And it's certainly contrary to what the IRS has told undocumented people for decades, that if they pay their taxes, even though they don't have a Social Security number, they use an alternative called the individual taxpayer identification number, or ITIN, that if they pay their taxes, they have nothing to worry about in terms of the IRS turning their information over to immigration enforcement officials. That is now, for the first time, really in question, and it has sent shockwaves of fear through the immigrant community.
I'm curious about this. In 2022, it was estimated that undocumented immigrants paid nearly $97 billion in federal, state, and local taxes. That might be surprising for many Americans to hear. For so long, the myth has been that undocumented immigrants don't pay their fair share. I'm wondering how big of an impact economically could the country face if those with orders of removal are no longer here and paying into the tax system?
Well, Phil, that's a great question because, yes, that's $97 billion paid by undocumented people into the system. And remember that they don't get the benefits back out of that system. They pay into Social Security, they pay into Medicare, but they are ineligible to get those benefits. So there certainly is a financial hit if undocumented people are no longer paying their taxes because they fear their information will be shared with immigration enforcement officials. But it actually goes beyond just the payment of taxes. The ITIN number is tied to a lot of different benefits, state benefits. For example, using an ITIN to get a driver's license, or using an ITIN to get a business permit, or a vendor's license, or a mortgage, or to borrow money to establish a small business. And it may surprise people that we have undocumented folks in the United States who are entrepreneurs, who have opened small businesses, gotten business loans. They employ U.S. citizens, and they may no longer be able to do that if they can't take out an ITIN number without fear. And so it really goes beyond that. And then in addition, it goes beyond just the undocumented community, because we should all be in favor of people working in a regularized and permitted environment. And this is just going to force people underground.
All right, Michael Kirkpatrick, thank you for your time. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Phil.